One Chicago, NBC's sprawling shared universe of procedural dramas set in the Windy City, has naturally experienced quite a bit of turnover. Here are the actors who left the One Chicago franchise and their reasons for doing so. Gabriella Dawson could do everything on Chicago Fire. The sister of Chicago PD's Antonio Dawson, Gabby started her career arc as the paramedic in charge for Ambulance 61. Then, after briefly becoming a firefighter, she returned to her first love as a paramedic. Gabby finally decided that Chicago wasn't for her and moved to Puerto Rico to run a rescue operation. Actor Monica Raymund's exit was surprising because she'd been with Chicago Fire throughout its first 6 seasons. As Raymund told the Chicago Tribune, "I knew that my 6-year contract was coming to an end, and I felt like I was hungry to explore a different role, a different story." Leslie Shea, portrayed by Lauren German in the first 2 seasons of Chicago Fire, was a capable paramedic who held her own in the tough world of Firehouse 51. A well-liked character who was a fan favorite to many, it was shocking when Shea was killed off in Chicago Fire's 3rd season premiere. Her death concluded a cliffhanger from the previous season, in which first responders fell for a fire trap set by a serial arsonist. From a creative standpoint, Shea died because the death of a central figure would provide an emotional wallop to the audience. As executive producer Matt Olmstead told TV Line, "Going into it, we knew it had to be someone who was going to give us a big impact, as opposed to going for a lesser-known character, which would equate to a pulled punch." The producer revealed that he and the show's writers considered each and every major character, ultimately going with Shea because, quote, "it affected the most people." Peter Mills was something of an audience surrogate on Chicago Fire, with fans seeing the exciting and often frightening world of big city firefighting through his eyes. Taking on the same job as his late father, Mills was a rookie firefighter when the show began in 2012. In the 3rd season, he saved a life in his first call-out, only to decide that what he really wanted to do was work in his family's restaurant in North Carolina.
Don't think for one second I don't know how lucky I've been. I will never forget that.
Actor Charlie Barnett found out he was about to lose his job from producers just before the exit episode taped. Barnett told the Sarasota Herald-Tribune, "I hadn't heard anything about it, and then they pulled me into a room, sat me down, and apologized." Barnett went on to say that the writer on the show felt that his character had, quote, "reached a plateau." Stephen R. McQueen joined Chicago Fire in its 4th season as Truck 81 firefighter and paramedic Jimmy Borelli. The character receives a big emotional arc when his brother perishes in a fire, which causes Borelli to blame Chief Bowden. The personal and workplace tension subsides when Borelli is severely injured in an explosion, which robbed him of an eye. The incident ended the career of Borelli, as well as McQueen's time on Chicago Fire, after just 24 episodes. As executive producer Michael Brandt later explained, it wasn't an option to get rid of Eamon Walker, who has portrayed Chief Bowden since the series started. Brandt told TV Line, "Eamon has been with us since day one. He was the first character we cast." Jon Seda joined NBC's One Chicago franchise as Chief Investigator Antonio Dawson, a recurring character on Chicago Fire, before the debut of Chicago PD, where he was a main character. Seda continued to be the link throughout Dick Wolf's universe of Windy City public servants, leaving PD for the short-lived Chicago Justice in 2017. After that show's swift cancellation, Seda and Dawson headed back to Chicago PD for another 2 years. Early in the 7th season, Dawson, suffering from a relapse to pill addiction, resigns from the force and moves to Puerto Rico. According to a source close to the show who spoke to Deadline, writers had done all they could do with the character creatively and opted to get rid of him. The star of the ensemble drama Chicago PD, Sophia Bush's image featured prominently in promotional materials for the series, seeing as she was already famous from her time on One Tree Hill. And yet Bush had no choice but to leave the popular series where she'd spent 4 years playing the complex Erin Lindsay, a teen criminal turned intelligence unit detective. Chicago PD writers sent her off by having Lindsay accept an offer to work with the FBI in New York.
I need an address. Now.
Bush had a hard time working through the harsh Chicago winters and said her body was, quote, falling apart because she was so unhappy. Producers refused to let her out of her 7-year contract, leaving Bush to issue an ultimatum. As Bush explained on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast, "I said, okay, you can put me in the position of going quietly of my own accord, or you can put me in the position of suing the network to get out of my deal, and I'll write an op-ed for the New York Times and tell them why." The producers eventually let Bush out of her deal. Officer Sean Roman, a sometimes hot-headed patrol cop who runs a security company when he's off duty, was transferred to Chicago PD's 2-1 because he'd become romantically involved with another officer. Toward the end of Chicago PD's 3rd season, Roman is shot in the line of duty and seriously wounded, hinting at a tragic end for his character. He ultimately pulls through, and given the choice of transferring to semi-active duty or quitting the force, he chooses the latter and moves to San Diego. While the exit of his character and the means by which he did it were a surprise, it's apparently what Chicago PD producers and actor Brian Geraghty had in mind all along. Back when they were trying to cast Roman, the producers wanted Geraghty in the role. Geraghty was interested, but wanted a year-to-year contract so he could leave the show when he felt like it was time to move on, and with enough advance warning to give Roman a proper send-off. Most of the action in Chicago Med, the hospital component of the One Chicago franchise, takes place in the emergency room at Gaffney Chicago Medical Center. Every day, its doctors and nurses work to save lives, with medical student Sarah Reese in the fray along with them. What ultimately sends Dr. Reese away from Chicago Med and off to Texas is a personal tiff with Dr. Charles, played by Oliver Platt, when he learns that Reese's father might be a murderer. By the time actress Rachel DiPillo started playing Dr. Reese on Chicago Med, she had amassed plenty of TV credits. However, since leaving the Chicago shows in 2018, DiPillo hasn't appeared in any movies or TV shows, and has mostly been a ghost on social media, except for a few tweets in 2020. So while we may not know exactly why she left, it seems like she left acting behind completely. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more Looper videos about your favorite TV shows are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.